This is the GPL Podcast, part of the Pull Tab Sports family. Let's get this bandwagon going, folks.
Take
Come
that,
on.
Beats, Mr. Negative.
See, I got to make sure the audio works so I don't end up like Micheletti.
You know, it was good to see that the Big Ten Network recognized how to cover hockey last week.
Leo, how was your recruiting?
My recruiting, I probably had 76 D1 offers.
Now, here's Jupiter and Vigo.
Good evening and welcome to the GPL Podcast, episode number 285. Not the greatest weekend, Vigs.
Yeah, not very good vibes for Gopher Nation this last weekend. You know, a lot of expectations that this would be kind of an easy series for them. And Notre Dame made it really difficult for Minnesota. And the Gophers just didn't really answer the challenge over all three games.
Well, let's not waste any time here. Let's bring in our guest. We kind of had planned him on the week before, but high school hockey took precedence way over that, of course. But let's bring him in. Pat Micheletti, thanks for coming back on the show, man.
My pleasure, guys. You know I love coming on your show.
Well, I'm glad you could join
it
us
is
again.
it is one of the best in college hockey. So I want to be with the best.
Well,
so here we are.
We appreciate that. We definitely appreciate
No problem.
that. You know, we skipped you for a week because your Hibbing Blue Jackets were in the state tournament. They did okay.
They did fine.
I was kind of hoping they'd do a little better, but it was a good state tournament for them.
Yeah, a lot of really young talent. They play Edmonton Oilers 1980s type hockey.
Okay.
They run and gun, and you know, they forgot that they have to play a little D, especially when you have a 4-goal lead, or you know. But you know what? When you're playing a bunch of freshmen and sophomores, and you know, hopefully they'll learn from it. And you know, the good thing is that they're back a little bit, and they, you know, should be good for the next upcoming years, which is good for Hibbing. It's been 14 years since they've been down to the tournament, and so good for them. Yeah, good. They had a good tournament.
Bad for our Gophers, Vigs.
Yeah, you know, at times they played well, but they just made critical mistakes that you can't make against Notre Dame, because once you fall behind to them, they get energized with their defensive structure. They're going to block more shots. They're going to commit more to the back check. And it's really hard to get your way out of that. I think what happened even on top of that was the chances that Minnesota was generating, they weren't finishing on. They didn't look like they were fully, you know, present and confident in their play. I counted on Sunday, even after they fell behind, I think they got 5 or 6 odd man rushes, and they just didn't finish on any of those chances.
No.
And, you know, I've talked to a couple of people about this, is when you start pressing and you put a lot of pressure on your game, it's hard to perform. And I think that's a little bit what happened in Minnesota on Sunday.
What do you think went wrong, Pat?
Well, I have a lot to unpack here.
That's quite all right. We're ready for it.
I mean, first of all, give a lot of credit to the way Notre Dame played. Because I don't know if you guys saw the games in October, I believe they were. No, early. I don't know when we were out in Notre Dame.
Yep.
I'm like, what team am I watching? Undisciplined, loose hockey, terrible defensively, couldn't stop anything, and Minnesota dominated that whole series. Now Notre Dame comes in here, completely different team. You know, they managed the puck, they defended, they blocked shots, they play the way Jeff Jackson's teams always play. Tough to play against. Here's what upset me about Minnesota. which kind of goes on to what Veek said and why they didn't finish. I think they got frustrated, and time after time after time, and they're told this, and they know that, when they're playing well, the things that they're doing. You cannot, on every rush, try to beat a guy and try to make a play when the play's not there. And that happened over and over and over and over. And it was happening to the same guys over and over. And then those guys get frustrated. And those are the guys that you're counting on. And so that bothered me, because when I talk to the coaches, and here's what we got to do. Here's what we're pounding. And it's really, hockey's a simple game if you want it to be, or it's a very difficult game if you want it to be. And they chose it to make it difficult. And so from that perspective, I think they started getting frustrated, and then you could see it in the rest of their play. So is the sky falling? No. Is there a formula for them to be like back on top of their game and steamroll some teams? Yes. But it's got to be right up here.
Viggs, Jack Ramsey last week was saying he would have preferred this game being in South Bend just because Minnesota plays better there. And you know what? I don't think the Minnesota kids on Notre Dame play as well at home as they do in their real home.
No, you can tell the Minnesota players who go to Notre Dame, they really get up for this series.
Always do here.
They've got a very strong supporter section behind their bench of friends and family. Even talking to the guys after the game, they got Malone's from Maple Grove because that's comfort food to a lot of them. So they get the win, they get the meal that they're looking forward to, and they get to enjoy it. And the thing that I noticed different about this weekend versus some of the other weekends of Minnesota players playing the Gophers is they committed to playing disciplined hockey.
Yeah.
They didn't take the cheese. They stayed in their structure. They took chances when they were given to them, and they played very disciplined hockey. I think one of the big things is Minnesota kept going into that 1-2-2. And it's almost like Notre Dame will give you the red line sometimes and then pincer you as you get to the blue line, and there's nowhere for you to go. And you have to be able to read that play and place the puck where one of your teammates is going to win the race, and then you get set up in your ground game.
Yep.
You're not going to beat 2 or 3 players as you come through that part of the ice. It's just that's what their entire team is designed to stop. And you saw Minnesota do that time and time again, and you lose momentum. And then you have to go in your zone and you have to defend, and then you have to get off. And if you don't change at the right time, then the next line gets on and has to defend. And it just ruins the momentum of the game, especially when you fall behind, because Notre Dame is more than happy to let you do that.
We forget Notre Dame has some skill up front. I mean, if you look at some of their forward, some of them are skilled. No, not a lot of them, but they have enough to score, which we saw. But one of the keys going into Sunday night for me, and I put it on the screen, I said, Minnesota has to score the first goal. And not for a variety of reasons. One, you get a team that's not high octane offense chasing a little bit, and you get Minnesota feeling good about themselves, and Notre Dame maybe, it's the mindset. Notre Dame gets that first goal, they're like, hey, we need one more and we're going to probably win, because they average under 3 goals a game. But point being, it's a psychological thing. And every game this year, and you guys know this.
All 7 of them. Yep.
All 7 games. It's fine and dandy during the regular season. Playoffs a little different. And they got, you could just tell after they scored that first goal, they got harder on pucks. They defended better. They blocked 23 shots on Sunday night. And, and Minnesota outshot them, what, 34-15?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now add the other shots and the missed nets. I didn't see what the final attempts were, but it's a big difference getting that first goal, especially in the playoffs.
But I do think being in the playoffs, that frustration came out more in the Gophers game than it does
No
in the regular
doubt.
season, because they know how embarrassing it would be to lose to the 7th seed as the 2 seed. The
Yeah.
expectations are all that they were just supposed to have an easy weekend.
Yeah.
And the reality of college hockey is it's not going to be easy against a team like Notre Dame. And they put that pressure on themselves. And I asked Bob, what does that look like in the game?
Yeah.
It's like, well, you shoot when you should pass, you pass when you should shoot, and you try to do more than is there. And you take risks that are unnecessary and don't even give you a benefit if you do happen to pull it off. And when you get into a playoff game, we've seen this with Minnesota in some of these games. That is the recipe of what happens to a frustrated Gopher team. And to see it pop up was concerning.
Here, I we may have had this conversation, Viggs, at the beginning of the year. What kind of worried me about this team throughout the year is that there's so much depth. There's a lot of guys who have the ability to score. And my biggest thing was, okay, what happens when we get in a tough game? Who's going to be that guy to stand up and say, I got it, or our line's got it, or are they going to look down the bench and say, are you, maybe they will, or, you know what I mean? And I saw that if you looked at the night they won, the Kurth line,
Mm-hmm.
I was hard on them until they made a couple plays, right? I mean, I'm like, this line's got to get going. They have done nothing tonight. And sure enough, they did later on. Great play by Kurth and, Wood scoring, whatever. But, it's like, if they want to win it, and it's got to be from that individual or that individual line to say, we're going out there and we're going to do it and not rely on this line or that line. I mean, the best line for Minnesota in the last month has been their fourth line, and it's not even close. Not even close. Middlestead, Nevers, and Hendrickson have been terrific. Been terrific. And I'll argue that till I'm blue in the face.
Viggs, I want to say the ball started rolling at about a minute and a half into the game Friday night. Soulier, just a flip puck in, goes off his glove and into the net. And I even think that's part of it, Viggs. When all of a sudden, like, oh my gosh, we're already down 1-0. And one of the positions we thought we kind of had wrapped up here just gave in an easy goal. And later on, he gives over a puck that ends up in the back of the net as well. And now all of a sudden, we've got a goalie controversy on top of all this stuff. And then we'll get to Huglen in a bit here, but things kind of piled up pretty quickly there Friday night.
Yeah, a little bit of adversity. I think Bob's got some bad memories with goaltending, giving away games like this, and he was pretty quick on the trigger. He
Yes.
just, there's not a lot of time in a game against Notre Dame to feel that out and fight through it. And so it was a quick hook. I thought Ari looked good for the rest of Friday. I thought he looked good on Saturday. Sunday, we saw some of the rebound control issues that come up with Ari sometimes come into play. He makes that initial save, but he has a hard time recovering to his crease and tracking the puck. And that popped up and it cost him an issue. And then you get into a game late and Knuble takes advantage of a Gopher mistake on a back check and extends the lead, and that kind of puts the game away. It really puts the Gophers in a weird situation with this long break, knowing who could be the goalie playing that first NCAA tournament game. both goalies have been fine, and I don't think goaltending is necessarily the issue with this team. But they've got to score enough goals to overcome those kinds of mistakes.
I'll take you back to the Penn State series. They should have won both games, you know. Easy to say, right? But they were the better team Friday night, and then they had three miscues. Egregious, turn the puck over, simple plays that cost them the game. And those are the things that you just cannot do at this time of the year.
And I do think on Saturday in the win, the Gophers scored some of their goals off of mistakes, turnovers, and rushes.
Yeah.
And this team is talented enough to play a tight game and score in those situations.
Yeah.
They don't have to force a lot of hockey to get those chances. Even Sunday against Notre Dame, those chances were there for them.
No doubt.
They just can't give away goals and mistakes to be successful. I mean, we look at this team and we talk about how hard it is sometimes for them to generate offense. They're one of the leading scoring teams in the country.
They are.
They can score. They can score. It's hard to see them generate the chances. Yeah. They almost have to wait for the other team to make mistakes, and that's hard to do when you're playing from behind.
So besides losing the series to Notre Dame and being out of the playoffs now for a total of 18 days, it looks like a minimum of, Aaron Huglen, Viggs, injured, out for the season. College Hockey News saying looks like the x-ray said a broken bone. Not great for this team because I think Aaron has been very consistent play throughout his entire career.
Yeah, Huglen is a steady player. He plays a possession game. He knows how to get that ground game, compete in the faceoff circle. He's a leader. He's dealt with a lot of adversity and injuries throughout his career. So he's got kind of that evenness to him, and they're going to miss him. After the game, Bob said it didn't look good. On his radio show, he said it's going to take a miracle for the x-ray to come back. And now we see the College Hockey News report that it's a broken bone. And, broken bones take at least 4 weeks to heal usually. Yeah. So that probably means the end of his season, which is too bad to see.
Really feel bad for him. A super kid, as you mentioned, been through a lot. And, he's never complained about taking a different role. And that's what I've really enjoyed about him is goals to win. He's not one of those guys where I need my points, and although I think he's got, I think on another team, he would have been a guy who would have been expected to get a lot of points. And I think he's capable of that. Not on this team. He's taking that different role. He's playing against the top centerman of the other team. He's taking big draws, killing penalties. He's giving up the power play per se. And so, you just say, thank you, I mean, talk about a team guy and just wants to win. And he's gonna, it's gonna be a large hole to fill in that spot.
Well, my first big memory of him is out in the East, one of the Eastern regionals, Viggs. He worked his butt off to get control of a puck, allowing Mr. Ben Myers to score a great overtime winner, all from his work along the boards. He almost took over the game, Viggs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you need players like that to be successful to get your ground game going. You need players who go in the corners, win pucks, and create scoring chances for their teammates, create momentum for the next line coming out there. And he is definitely one of those guys. And this year's team, center depth has been a concern for the roster as they put it together. So it'll be a challenge for them to address that here in the playoff game.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Paulson will, move strictly back to the middle. And, I'm sure they're going to tinker with some lines and try to find the right formula. And I haven't talked to anybody since Sunday, and I'm not probably going to talk to them until next week.
Mhm.
And just they got enough to figure out, and so what they're going to do, I don't know. I don't know how you do that. I have no idea what their plans are.
Well, the sweep, essentially, losing the series this weekend did cost them Vigs. They did drop from number 3 to number 4 in the pairwise, and John Candles is asking here, does finishing 4th or 5th in the pairwise matter right now?
I mean, the only difference is you potentially get last change for the second game of a regional. It's looking like they might be in one with Western Michigan or Maine. So getting that extra change would help, especially if you're going to be short centers. Being able to put out guys you want for draws would be a nice advantage.
And it's having a tougher game in the first game if they drop to 5, right?
Yeah, I kind of think that being 1 or 2 is a big help, but being 3 or 4, you're still going to be playing a pretty tough game.
Yeah,
it's looking like
I'm saying if they drop to 5, right?
Yeah,
they'd be 2. They'd be they'd play 3, right?
But I kind of think like that 8 through 13 in the pairwise, all tough teams right now in that section. So
yeah.
Can they move back up? I know we've kind of heard that they could lose their 4th position, could lose the 5. Can they go back up? I mean, if Maine loses,
Maine would have to lose. Michigan State would have to lose.
Well, Michigan State's going to stay above them, but if they could get back to number 3, that could help a bit. Vigs.
CHN says 26% chance that they could be the number 3 overall seed, so it's still possible.
Okay.
You think 4 is a lock?
I mean, it's a 19% chance of being 5 or 6. So the way they get out of the top 4 is if Maine and Western Michigan win their conference titles in the tournament, that could bump them back. But there's other things that have to happen for them to get to 5, and a lot of things would have to go wrong for them to get to number 6.
Yeah.
Oh, we've seen a lot of bad luck with the Barrelheads.
So, in a nutshell, they're going to be a number 1 or a number 2 seed.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, they will.
And in Fargo, they'll go to Fargo.
In all likelihood, right, Vigs?
I mean, they can't.
It looks pretty likely.
Yeah.
Yeah. All the bracketologies, whether they're 4, 5, or 6,
I've seen
want to put them in
I've
Fargo.
seen that CCHA team not being in Fargo. Have you? I've seen them. I've seen them in Toledo.
I've seen Quinnipiac here. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess
there's going to be some Hockey East and Big Ten potential conflicts with seeding, so they're going to have to move things around that way.
And Penn State could mess things up too. I mean,
they're in Allentown. They're going to be in
Allentown, but that's still kind of,
Yeah.
But they'd be a 3 or 4 seed in Allentown, which everybody would love to see, I'm sure.
Oh boy.
You think Maine wants to go there?
Oh boy. It does.
Maybe they could have voted differently at the offseason, and they could have had campus sites, and they could have had a Alfond Arena game in a couple of weeks.
Pipe dream, Vigs. We've given up. They just don't want it.
How about me wanting to expand the tournament? Have a play-in game. I think every team has earned the right to have their conference champion, in the tournament, right? But there's going to be some teams on the outside that, pretty darn good. I mean, there was a chance going into the weekend if Michigan sweeps Penn State, right? Penn State is on that bubble big time. Out, no more games. Good luck. And they, for example, have the best record in the country since December 25th. A team like that, who's the hottest team in the country in the second half, but because of their first half, don't get in. So I'm saying, let's have a play-in. Let's do something.
Well, our guy Ben Holden wants you to keep the dream alive at campus sites, Vigs.
When I run for National College Hockey Commissioner, I'll be sure to contact Ben Holden for my super PAC.
There you go. Because we've been on that bandwagon for a while, Pat.
Yeah.
I would love to see that at least the first weekend. Oh boy, that could be great.
And
like
I
you
don't
said,
disagree.
I mean, convention.
Well, you know what? The problem is the coaches. They don't want it.
It is. But the thing is, a lot, like Viggs just said, well, gosh, how about us? A game in Alphon this week.
You know what? You know what's so funny about these coaches not wanting them? It's funny because these are guys, right, that were in my era. The Sandelins, the Berries, it was the Granados, all right, all these guys. And I laugh at them because they had no issue at all. Love playing on the road as players back in college. But now as coaches, no.
I mean, you'd have to go to Western Michigan. You'd have to go to Maine. You'd have to maybe go to Quinnipiac or Cornell or whoever it may be. A lot of these coaches that vote against that. And
UConn would be hosting Denver right now.
Yes.
I mean, that would be a great situation for them.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we're stuck to at least for quite a few more years. So,
yeah.
We have to hope for bad attendance, don't we, Viggs? I mean, that's just one of the things you have to hope for.
I think we have to hope for one seeds having to play teams like Penn State. Or when North Dakota gets in, BC has to play North Dakota in Fargo or, a place where it's a real hostile crowd where you should have the advantage and you have to travel west and you play against the home team.
What does it say when we're going to nondescript cities where there's no college hockey? I mean, there's not a team in Toledo, right? There's not a team in Allentown. There's not a team in Fargo. Now Fargo's different because you're only an hour from, Grand Forks. Get it? And it's a hockey. Get it? But it's mind-boggling. I'm being nice. I could be worse, but I'm really biting my tongue.
It's okay. It's okay. We've been biting our lip for a while here, Pat, and it's just like it's gonna take more upsets, Viggs, like you said. Let's just say what happens if North Dakota makes it into Fargo this year and they're a 4 seed and they've got to play somebody like a Maine.
They might be playing someone like BC.
Yes.
Because of the way things shake out. North Dakota might be behind an Atlantic hockey team in the pairwise, potentially. And theoretically, they're supposed to go by the pairwise 1 versus 16. If 16 is North Dakota, all of a sudden, all cards are back in the deck, and you've got to figure that out. And you've got BC playing North Dakota in round 1 in Fargo. Sign me up.
Yeah. No kidding.
I want to see that happen.
I mean, people would love to see Minnesota, North Dakota, and Fargo.
I mean, could you imagine a North Dakota, BC, Minnesota, Quinnipiac regional? I mean, that'd be a lot of fun for us out west.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, it's like we're beating a dead horse here because
we are.
But I still want to talk about it. At least
we can only dream about doing things that is right, and smart and sensible.
But that's not the NCAA, and that's not half the coaches. And we are losing some of the older clan of coaches, Viggs. Maybe it will slowly change because we've noticed the younger coaches tend to would like to play on home ice. Because we know Bob, he would rather just stick to how it is as well. So, but then you guys,
Bob knows he doesn't want to stick his nose into this argument because no way that he PRs it.
No, not as a blue blood. No. But changes at Cornell, changes, other places.
Mercyhurst, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Notre Dame.
Mm-hmm. We shall see. But we need to talk about our sponsors here, Vigs, and we're going to start with one of my favorites, Lunch Bucket Hockey. Oh, boy. You know, we saw those jerseys that Jack Ramsey had made up from Lunch Bucket Hockey for his Vail tournament. They look spectacular.
Yeah, Jack Ramsey, I mean, does he embody Lunch Bucket Hockey?
Oh, gosh.
The hardworking, grit and grind guy. I mean, that's Jack Ramsey. And so when the Lumberjacks are going to Vail, they went to Lunch Bucket Hockey. A couple local guys who played Friday lunchtime pickup hockey. They evolved into a brand, and now you can get custom jerseys from them if you're looking for a special occasion for your team or your beer league team. Check them out, lunchbuckethockey.com.
And of course, we've got Gateway Fiber to the Fish House event we just did a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun going out there. You know, you and I, we both rely on fiber to do our podcast.
Thanks for the invite.
Our house. The fish weren't biting, Pat, so we didn't have you out there. But we did have great internet, so everybody could watch. And they're coming to town. If you're in Blaine, Brooklyn Park, Champlin, Coon Rapids, Maple Grove, Plymouth, Gateway Fiber is available to you, and they're looking to expand deeper into Minnesota. So don't be feeling like you're forced to get Xfinity. Check out Gateway Fiber.
Elevated beer, wine, and spirits. They got a couple stores, but we're mostly talking about their White Bear Lake store, aren't we, Vigs?
Well, they're hometown guys from White Bear Lake, and they've got this store. If you're looking for craft beers like I do, you know, check out my GPL Overtime Beer of the Week. You know, I'm looking for crafty stuff. If you're looking for spirits, they just had their rare whiskey event going on. And if you're looking for the big stuff, if you're looking for Bud, Miller, Coors, Michelob Light, you can get cases for just $17.99. If you're into the big black box wine, you can get that for $13.99. Most places are charging at least $20 for those. So check out these hometown guys. They've got one in White Bear Lake. They've got one in South Minneapolis, and they'll help you out.
And last, but of course not least, Cub Foods. I was just in there yesterday, Vigs.
I was just in there getting my Sumu Mandarin oranges. You know, those are in season. I go right into the store. They've got them all there. I stock up on that produce. Great Cub stuff. You know, they're a local company. They support local businesses like, you know, Pull Tab Sports. They support the Gophers. They're on PJ Flex headset. And they support the Pull Tab Sports Studio, and we love them. So check them out. They do delivery, pickup, go into the store, get ready for your parties. Check out Cub Foods.
And of course, we thank all the sponsors of the GPL podcast. But now it's time for Vig's top 20 for this week. A little bit of change up at the top. Minnesota dropping down. I personally would have dropped Minnesota down a little further. But
well,
I did, you punished
had
Michigan.
A tough weekend too.
Yeah, I mean, you punished Michigan pretty well too.
Yeah, I mean, Michigan, they're out of the tournament. I've kind of had a hard time putting them where I've put them all year. You know, they've dropped a lot of games I think they should have won. It's just they were not putting the pieces together, so they were the biggest faller in my rankings. You know, I had a hard time dropping Minnesota too much because I just don't see enough consistency from the teams right in that. It's almost like they're in a tier. You know, that Western Michigan, Maine, Denver, BU. I feel that's a pretty strong tier. And then you have a next tier with like Providence, Ohio State, Connecticut, Penn State, Massachusetts, Quinnipiac. I think that's that next tier teams. And so when we're talking about like 2-3 matchups in the NCAA tournament, I think there is a little bit of a difference between these top 5 teams and that middle tier. So I think it is an advantage to be the 2 seed or the 1 seed. But all those teams there in the middle there are kind of the same to me right now.
And UMass is in a battle with Vermont as we speak. You know, about 9 minutes left in the third period. They are up 2-1. So that's a 10 versus a 32 in the pairwise. So Massachusetts kind of on the edge there, Vigs. Obviously a 2 out of 3 series, but that could get interesting as well. So.
Yeah, definitely. I think Arizona State's watching that the closest. The bubble is very thin this year. There are not a lot of teams that can jump up. I mean, I've got Omaha in my poll because they've just won a lot of good games. The NCHC just hasn't performed well enough in non-conference to help them. I think I had them in my top 20 at the start of the year, and I've got them there at the end here now too.
Well, actually, they were top 10, weren't they? When they first beat Minnesota early in the season. So,
I mean,
Andrew-
they've still got one of the best goalies in college hockey.
Oh, gosh, yes.
He has a lot of nights where he's made 40, 50 saves to pull out a win for his team and a difference maker for them. Would be interesting to see if Omaha went on a run in the NCHC tournament.
Well, yeah, I mean, and North Dakota had it in their hands if they wanted home ice. You know, and they couldn't do the job either. So they'll be going to Omaha this weekend.
Andrew Carlson, another 0.1 yard year. Viggs, could somebody get in by just the slimmest of margins? It could be one of those years.
I mean, the teams that are in it, it could be close. I think he might be referencing. I joked that Western Michigan was 0.0001 behind Minnesota in the RPI, but there's not going to be big jumps in the pairwise this year.
No.
And it's pretty much one of those years where Hockey East and Big Ten played really, really well, and everybody else didn't do so well.
And Viggs, you know this better than I, and Craig, you too. To move up in the pairwise, don't you pretty much have to beat a team that's above you to get any traction? Like Western is playing St. Cloud this weekend, right? First round. St. Cloud is mid-20s. They're not going to get a lot of pairwise points.
No.
This weekend. Not enough to move up. Right?
No, Western's going to have a hard time moving up.
Yeah.
They can stay ahead, and benefit that way. A team like Maine is one that could jump up enough if they can pull off a win over BC.
Yeah. But it's hard. It's hard to jump. So
yeah, it is, and a lot of times some of these numbers come up. You might beat a team that's below you, and it helps another team move up because they did. It's all over the place. It's all over the place. Rest of the Big Ten tournament guys. Who's your favorite, Viggs?
I mean, I've got to go with Michigan State. They've been the most talented team in terms of winning performance, other than stumbling against Penn State here recently. I have to pick them. It's going to be interesting to see if Penn State can keep this run going. They've got some good defense, good goaltending, some scoring. They're aggressive. But I just like Sparty right now.
They could lock up a spot in the NCAA tournament pretty much if they do defeat Ohio State, though.
Yeah, I would think that would lock.
I think they're in now, but
okay.
Yeah, I do. I'm going with Penn State, guys.
Ooh, I like it.
I am. I don't know. Michigan State's a lot like Minnesota in terms of falling asleep sometimes. I think they have the best forechecking in the league. I think they try to hit the home run sometimes a little too much. And, they are the stretch pass kings.
Yes.
It is. I watched them against Penn State, and they played right into Penn State's hands. And turn the puck over, boom, back of the net, first two shots, 2-0. That's Penn State holds on to win, but that's the, I think I like Penn State right now. They have this attitude where, we're down, but we're going to come back and win. They have that mentality and that feeling. And when you have 20 guys on your bench, your managers, your trainers, your, everybody believing that they're going to get it done. So that's where I'm going.
Hearing you talk about Michigan State being the stretch pass kings of the league, I kind of see Notre Dame at plus 325. And I get a little excited that should be the USCHO pizza money bet.
I know, and Penn State has a lot of forwards like Minnesota. I mean, when you look, they're kind of similar, right? They don't have a lot of per se. I mean, they have some skill up front. You look at their skilled players. It's pretty impressive group. If Notre Dame can frustrate them hit them, stick them, block a lot of, if they play the same way that they did against Minnesota, and obviously the goaltending, right? They've got a chance.
Well, you just never know. You just never know.
But Nightingale's telling them right now, don't let this happen to us.
Look what happened to Minnesota.
Yeah.
Look
Don't
what
take
happened
the
to Minnesota.
cheese. Don't take the cheese, guys.
Right.
18 days off, Vigs. We don't really have anything to predict for the Gophers. 18 days. What can they do during this time to build something positive for the regional?
I think it's really tricky to get too heavy on the team right now about what to do to get ready for a regional because it's such a long break. Like, I think you just want to have them instilling the habits that you want. So you want to have them working on making good reads at zone entries, placing pucks for teammates, and starting that ground game. And then that's it. Move on to the next group. I think defensively, forechecking all the way back or back checking all the way back to your crease and picking up bodies. And once you do that, end the drill and go to the next rep. And you just kind of have to make these routine habits ingrained in them so that when they get into the playoffs, they have that skill set top of mind. I don't think you need to pound them, punish them, hound them on these details, but you need to practice them and make sure they're making the right decisions.
What I would like to see, I want them to get mad at each other. I want them to have battle drills and battle drills and battle drills and who's going to come out of the puck with the corner drills, those type of things. And I want them to hit each other, and I want them to bang, and I want them to get mad, and I want them to get that feeling of what it's going to be like when we're playing whoever we're playing. Okay? And have that mindset that when I'm going in the corner, I'm going to come out of there with the puck. And I think they got to do it to each other and feel the pain and give the pain. And I'm not saying fight, and I'm not saying I'm just saying some tough, hard battle drills when the time is proper leading into the tournament.
I feel like if you want to do that, you can do that next week.
Yeah,
because
I'm not saying tomorrow. Yeah, exactly.
You have an entire week where you can have a
Sure.
hard day.
Yes.
You can have a skill day. You can have a hard day. You can have a skill day. You have a scrimmage.
I just want I want that to be part of it.
Yeah. I just don't think you can do that for 18 days.
No, God, no.
You're going to come into it. I'd be part of your plan.
I'd be in the locker room. I wouldn't be out there, Viggs.
Oh boy. I'm looking at some questions here. I'm looking for something earlier. I'm not sure if I can find it. Well, somebody did say this. I love this one. Pat, my son seeing you at Mariucci back in February. He was so excited to take a picture with you. So I think he's appreciative. You were taking pictures with kids out there. So
You're very welcome.
That's always great stuff there.
Yeah.
I did see something here. Oh, let me find it. It was about Snuggerud and if he's already checked out.
No.
I hope not.
No.
There it is.
I think Snuggerud's putting so much pressure on himself that is a little bit what's coming on. We looked at him earlier in the year. He
carried the team in January. Yeah, I mean,
and when he was making mistakes, he was just playing through it. He wasn't showing the frustration, looks to the sky, or slamming a stick, or making the easy mistake. He wasn't doing that kind of stuff. And we saw some of that creep out on Friday and Sunday, but he needs a little help too.
Yeah. Well, listen, I'm gonna defend him to this amount. His whole line was trying to do too much. Going into the offensive zone instead of making the simple play. And you know what? The inability, I know they recognize, every skilled player in the NHL, on a mite team, every skilled player thinks he can make every play. And that is when you run into problems. I'm sure I was no different. I'm sure I thought I could make every play, and so you just got to get it in your head. It's not there, make the smart play, and, and your line mates have to too.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
and you can look at the goals that were scored this weekend. I don't think any of them came from a play where someone tried to do too much. They all came
right.
from situations where the offense presented itself and they were confident and finished. It wasn't from trying to go through everybody and do too much. You just don't see that happen very often in college hockey.
And here's something else I noticed. There were times in that game where they had too much time and space. And then what does that lead to? Instead of a bang, bang play, you remember the goal that Oliver Moore scored? That was a bang, bang, back of the net. Textbook, right? There were times in the offensive zone where they were, moving and this and carrying the puck and, or getting in and having, a big enough gap. And instead of bam, get that shot off, it was a hair slow. And then what happened? Good stick by Notre Dame, or a block, or a missed net. And so I think everything in the mind has always got to be faster, quicker, get it off. And when Jimmy's not getting a shot off and hitting the net, because if you go back and look, there were a bunch of times where he either missed the net or it got deflected, and we know how quick he gets a puck off his stick, right? And so I think just a little bit of that. So
I personally think that this team will go as far as Jimmy Snuggerud goes. Big time players need to show up in big time games. Their next game is the biggest game of the year. In 6 NCAA games, Jimmy Snuggerud has 1 point, 1 goal against Canisius in his very first NCAA game, where they won 9-2. No other points since then. People talk Kobe Baker, they talk all this and that. Yes, it's a lot of pressure on the kid, but sometimes I think they should just set him up first thing in that first game. Get him going, because if he gets going, this team could go right to the top. If he doesn't get going, I don't think they're going to get very far.
Well, I'm going to push back a little on that and just say Connor Kurth, Matthew Wood, Oliver Moore, Brody Lamb. Come on, guys. These are all guys that, they have to be good. They have to be good. Your line mates have to be good. It would not shock me to see Paulson and Snuggerud back together. I would bet money that that's going to be what you'll see in 18 days.
Well, let's go then, because I think he needs to be successful.
Well, sure. I mean, I hope so, but darn it, you can't wait 2 periods and then have just a good third period from another line. I'm sorry, you go in waves at teams, and Minnesota has that ability to run 4 lines and wear teams out, and where they're like, enough, but if it's not, if you have 1 line off, that messes everything up. That's why every time, go back and look at the shifts. John Middlestead, Mason Nevers, and Beckett Hendrickson. You know what? Not the prettiest players in the world, but what do? Simple. They get it in, they bang, they cause havoc, they create plays. Nevers has got, is scoring more frequently now, and that's just by their line, causing stuff.
And I think that's why Kurth, Clark, and Wood got some of their scoring chances
Right.
on Saturday, because of the momentum that Middlestat line gained
Yes.
for them before
Yes.
they got out there. And I think
Yes.
sometimes that doesn't translate to Snuggerud's line.
You're probably right. You're probably right. And Brody Zemer's, I mean, he's a freshman, right? But his game has slipped a little bit, and so he's got to get his game. I mean, he's a product of Snuggerud too. Snuggerud's going to be better if Brody Zemer's better on that left side.
Mm-hmm.
If he's winning battles in the corner and getting the puck to Jimmy in areas where he can score. Eric Paulson has got to be, again, he's a freshman and he's going to get there. But, now is the time to take a step and, make some of those plays.
This is the time of year where freshmen are no longer freshmen. Was what you're
Well,
saying.
right.
It's time for them to step up.
Well,
Show
and,
us
and
what-
guys
show us
like
what you got.
Paulson and Hendrickson and Falloon and Gruba, they're older than your typical Gopher freshman.
Right.
Mhm.
They came in at age 20, 21. They're older players who have played 2-3 years of junior. They need to be contributing in these moments here.
Yeah.
And I'll be interested to see if the Gophers don't roll 4 lines in the regional. If
Yeah.
they just kind of go, 3 lines or 3 centers and 4 sets of wings or something like that, just to take advantage of their talent
Yeah.
and go with it. They don't play back-to-back games. They'll have a day off in between. So I'll be really interested to see how they play things when they do get back on the ice.
I will see you guys at the regionals, right?
If we will be in Fargo, if they're in Fargo. So if
I don't know if I
can.
can make it to Toledo or Allentown
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
where's the other
Right.
one, Manchester or not sure the fourth one
Yeah, we
is.
wouldn't make those, but
Yeah.
Fargo, we would definitely be there, and even though they didn't come out ahead last year, Pat, it was a fun weekend with the day in between, in Sioux Falls, just a great hockey vibe it was in that town
Yep.
last year. Met a lot of people, had a lot of fun. Let's do it in Fargo again this year.
Let's do
have
it.
some fun.
Yep.
So
I'm with you.
we
We got to, bottom line, be positive. The sky is not falling, Gopher fans. It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay.
Pat's here to calm you all down.
It's not like this team is broken. It's a matter of them knowing what to do, but just not doing it. Does that make sense? They know, hey, we got to get the puck in deep here. We got to go after it. This is our game. And they get away from it and they got frustrated. So can they turn that and get it and understand it and know what it's going to take to win?
I think they just have to treat the game like a regular game as they've done all season and not
Yep.
how they treated playoff games with Notre Dame.
Yep.
Because we've seen them throughout the season have these games and they do just fine.
Yep.
This was the first weekend we really saw that happen to Minnesota. You have to remember, what they lose 4 times in regulation all
Yeah.
year,
Mhm.
and 3 of them they got goalied.
Right.
There's only one game where they really no-showed, that empty building against Ohio State. Every other game this team has competed pretty well.
Yep.
I think a lot of people have bad vibes because of the overtime 3-on-3 and shootout loss stuff. That's not hockey.
No,
It's disappointing as a fan, but that doesn't embody what this team is.
Correct.
And so you have to think this is a hiccup. There have been plenty of teams that have lost in their conference tournament and have gone on to win NCAA titles.
Yep.
It's not as big a gap as some people seem to want to say in social media. We're hearing the squeaky wheels on there about the team, but there is a lot of talent. There is a lot of consistency. We just saw one weekend where it wasn't there.
And it's up to the team to do it.
Yeah.
It's up to the players to come together to say, "Hey guys, this is
everything.
it."
Everything is still in front of them.
It is.
You know.
It
So,
totally is. It's up to them.
Listen. I'd rather have this team than some others. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So we'll leave it right there.
Well, thanks for coming on with us again, Pat.
My pleasure, guys. I appreciate you having me. You know I do. I love coming on. I hope I get invited back
You will.
at some point next year, whenever.
Well, we'll of course have you on. I know you give Viggs and I a hard time about the late start.
And yeah, we're gonna have to negotiate that next year.
I'm not sure because a couple weeks ago, I put the podcast out at about 12:15 at night, and you liked the tweet. I'm like, wait a minute, Pat's in bed, doom scrolling.
I was up. Yeah, I woke up. I'm like, oh, I gotta do it. Hey, am I the guy though that likes them, retweets them?
That's right.
Yeah. Come on.
Yeah, I'm right. You are.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Hey, anyway, thanks, guys. I appreciate it. And I hope to see you in Fargo.
You will see us in Fargo.
All right.
So that's going to do it for this episode of the GPL podcast. No show next week since the Gophers won't be playing. But for those of you watching live right now, we'll have a little bit of overtime. But for us, we'll see you in 2 weeks when Mike Carmen joins the show. So thanks for joining us.
So I figured this should be a good one for all the raging Gopher fans. This is Raging Furious from Surly Brewing Company. It's their IPA that's got even more furious. That's the descriptor. It's 11% brewed by Surly in Minneapolis. And cheers to all those Gopher fans out there. This is a big one for you.
And UMass wins and Minnesota moves up to number 3.
Coming up, Gophers.
That's just funny. Exact RPI is what Matthew Dietz is saying. Yeah, and of course Pat was gone before we even, right as we hit the outro, Pat was gone. So
He's gone. He doesn't hang out for that.
What? I don't know. No idea. Did we lose you, Viggs? Did you knock yourself off the stage? I think you knocked yourself out there.
Maybe I did on purpose.
There's so many times I've hit a button and all of a sudden I'm gone.
You've been a little button happy this year.
I know. Well, so I've got one of those Apple mouse and you could just touch. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I just have my mouse over something and I kick something out. So
I know some people don't like this one, but I like it. Lots of furious.
I don't even really like beer, but you know what? If you enjoy it, let people know. Everyone's got different
malty, toppy.
Got different tastes. I'm drinking water, so
You still don't sound healthy.
Well, I got a little gunk in my lungs, but I'm feeling better.
Okay.
I've been on antibiotics and steroids since Saturday afternoon. Last night was the first night I slept without having to use a nasal spray to open up my nose so I could breathe. So that's a really good sign for me. Yeah, so like I said, I'm so coughy, I've got a little gunk in there, but I'm feeling better and it's going well. So
one thing we didn't get Pat's opinion on was there's Big Ten awards that are coming out tomorrow for Player of the Year, Defender of the Year, Goaltender of the Year, Freshman of the Year, Coach of the Year. I was a little surprised the freshman of the year candidates are not very strong for the Big Ten this year. It's kind of interesting.
Well, who knows? We have a great question for Steve. I'm not sure that he'd want to come on the podcast again.
Woden?
Wouldn't, yeah,
Yeah.
Adam.
I'm not
What
getting
are we?
that vibe.
What are we supporting this weekend? I let me see. Oh, wait a minute. What do we got here? What? I wonder if we're getting. If a certain somebody who just texted me is available, come join us on the show. What kind of a provocative text? Well,
provocative text. Oh boy.
in OT, want to join?
I was wondering what you were doing over there.
Allison,
the keyboard's tapping away.
it's not Craig Floor. So
saw Frank Mazzocco at the game this weekend. He was up in the club room.
He came out with us afterwards at Maxwell's. You missed it.
I missed out again.
You missed out.
I was not doing Maxwell's. I did Thursday at the state hockey tournament.
Oh man, that must have been awesome.
That was good. Get to go with a bunch of old high school people that I coached with and played for, and the games are great. I was really impressed with all the teams, especially Lakeville South. Like I came into that weekend thinking, they're probably not going to show up, and they competed super hard. That was fun to see. St. Thomas, great structure. Liked a couple of their players quite a bit. I was a little disappointed in Cooper Simpson and Shakopee. I didn't think they answered the bell for the weekend, which Gopher fans probably like to hear. North Dakota commit doesn't have a great tournament, so got to see Vanek and Leopold on the
Embrace.
ice talking. Embrace, yep.
You know, Nick Angel's in the bathtub right now. Otherwise, he would join us. It'd be a little too provocative for the podcast.
It'd be very provocative.
Gosh, is like, is it Allie Ray? Buckle up. We'd break the show if we had Allie Ray on.
Let's try to keep things in one piece for one night.
Oh boy, yeah. I still think Snuggerud's the key. He's disappeared in March last 3 seasons or so far. You know, and I see it when Gopher Hockey Stats sends me 1 goal in 6 games, and it was a power play goal against Canisius in a 9-2 romp. I'm sorry, and he was a plus minus of 0 that game.
Yeah,
so I'm not. That's not a number. And you know, someone was posting earlier that Jimmy plays well when he plays with superstars. You know, those last almost the whole season he played with Nyes and Cooley, and he didn't do anything in the playoffs.
Well, like when we talk about the Gophers in these tight games, executing plays, Snuggerud had chances to extend the lead for Minnesota. He just didn't execute. I feel bad, harping on this stuff, but it's not because they're not good enough. That's
correct.
Brooks line when he's talking about the NHL All-Stars getting whooped by the Russians. He goes, it's not because you're not good enough. It's like you got to play as a team, and you got to take advantage of opportunities as they present themselves. Hockey is a game of mistakes. It is not skate through everybody and win it by yourself.
That's not a nice shot to show, but that's a lot of net, Jimmy.
He's tired on this one because that year they were so bad at overextending their shifts. When you shoot on your back foot like that, it's usually because you're tired and you're not able to finish through. Funny enough, listen to the Soda Pod this week. They had Airy and Soulier and Potter on, One of the things the goalies notice about Sungy is this year he finishes every rebound chance hard. They're like, he is not just placing in the net. When he gets those chances, he shoots it hard. He's trying to shoot it through the net.
Hit the net more often then.
Yeah, that would help.
And that is not just Jimmy either. It's a lot of guys out there. I a lot of times I see, you know, Viggs, shoot low, hit the pads, get a rebound.
Yeah, I was just about to look at the stats for Friday. 68 attempts, only 30 made it to the net. So 38 didn't get there. Saturday night, 67 attempts, only 31 made it to the net. So even though we were talking after the game about how they did a better job at hitting the net, they still missed more than got to the net. Some of those were on purpose that night. And then on Sunday, they had 77 attempted shots. 38 of them got to the net. So another 30 missed shots, or 29.
I love this one. Dougie used to always say, you could shoot over the net, but you can't shoot under it. And that's a great quote. I like that one, Chris. He's not wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It just seems to me they're either missing the net or they're hitting the goalie right in the breadbasket.
Well, it's too high.
He can control it. It's a lot harder to control when it's down by his feet.
Well, I think one of the things Pat said was like the Gophers had almost too much time at points during the game when they had the puck. And if you have too much time on the puck and shooting's your last option, a goaltender like Say is going to be squared up and he's going to take away most of your scoring chances. And goalies and D are so good at letting the goalie see the shot and then either freezing the puck, deflecting it into the corner, or clearing out the rebound. That's not a great way to play. So you would like to see sometimes those nights where they have 77 attempts. It might be okay to only have 60, but have higher quality shots where the goalie has to move and there's more traffic and there's more rebounds. Because Notre Dame only had 42 shot attempts on Saturday. And they're the ones with, 4 goals? So.
Yeah.
And I don't think it was necessarily goaltending.
Well, I think Soulier ended up damaging himself just because of what he did.
Yeah.
I mean, accident or not, boy, he did get the hook real quick. Some people were even speculating he came out himself, and I'm doubting that. But
No.
Obviously, we couldn't see Bob in that instance. But that second one, actually was the third goal, wasn't it? Was that a 3?
The second goal was a legit, pretty good shot.
Yeah. And he is a little susceptible on the high glove side. We've seen, but I think he starts in Fargo.
It's hard. It's hard to decide for me.
I know.
You don't know. I mean, you don't get many kicks at the can at these things. Some of me thinks that Airy is your goaltender that you want to see. Is he going to be a guy next year that you want to play? Soulier has been pretty good, but he's not a big goalie. So it's going to be interesting to see what the coaches do. I don't think that that's going to decide the outcome, especially the first game. They've just got to score when they get the chances. They had plenty of chances. I was looking at the expected goals for the weekend too, and Minnesota on Friday, their expected goals were 4 to Notre Dame 1.7. On Saturday, expected goals for Minnesota 3.1, only 1.7 for Notre Dame. Expected goals for Sunday 3 for Minnesota, 1.6 for Notre Dame. So like the metrics are saying Minnesota was in control of all these games. They just gave them away because they gave away bad chances and didn't take advantages of theirs.
That third goal on Sunday, obviously a killer, because it was.
And
I think it was. It was Falloon, somebody who pinched because it was Falloon trying to catch up to the guy.
Well, I think Middlestat pinched and tried to make a play, and then the odd man rush. Someone was asking us to break this down. I don't know if we want to jeopardize the copyright by pulling it up, but it looked to me like it was a bad decision with the puck in the offensive zone. And I think Oliver Moore back checked all the way back to the rush and then just kind of let up and let Notre Dame have a 2-on-1, even though he was right there. Usually, from everything I've seen about Bob Motzko's team, you want to back check all the way to the goal line.
Bob
So
Motzko, you mean every team they should be?
Well, some teams might want you to take the third option, the high player, and for the D just to play the 2-on-1.
Yeah.
And take away the pass and let the goalie take the shooter. So some coaches might want to do that, but the Gopher coaches usually say, get back, take one of the guys, let the D close out the guy with the puck and shut down the play. Let the third back checker pick up that third guy. Middlestat admitted turning it over and forcing the play, but I really think it was the back check that allowed Knuble to cut across the goal like he did. So
UNH and UMass,
a lot of breakdowns there.
Going into overtime, it looks like, and Merrimack and Northeastern in overtime right now. So, could you imagine the complaints from Minnesota fans if they were playing hockey right now on a Wednesday night?
Hockey's tournament.
They would be losing their shit. They just would be, Vigs. Out east, it's a normal thing.
Mm-hmm. Gosh, two overtime games, huh?
Yep. The other one just ended in the third. So, thoughts on Gruba this year? I thought he'd have more points. He did come in as an offensive kind of juggernaut. He has not found that groove, Viggs.
Well, I think he got a lot of his points on the power play in Fargo too, and there just isn't power play time for a defenseman right now. It's just not the way they run it with Renzel and Chesley being the guys and Kester. Those three have probably earned the power play time. Now you could argue that they haven't performed at a very high level this year, and maybe you want to shake things up and put Gruba in there, but as Don Lucia says, you don't want to have the plumbers paint the frescoes at the cathedrals. You want your artisans to do that. So I think there's more growth for him in the future as well. Whipple knew coming to Minnesota that he was going to be the odd man out this year if everyone stayed healthy. That's why we haven't seen him down the stretch. Max Rude, he's redshirting this year because of the returning players that are back. So it'll be real interesting to see what happens if, guys graduate, if guys turn pro early, what happens to blue line. So
it'll be interesting to see what they do for goalie. Do they go to the Canadian leagues or do they get someone out of the portal?
Fun tidbit that Potter dropped on the Soda Pod with our friend Scott State of Hoppy. He has been at many WHL rinks this year.
Really?
Yeah. So they've been checking out the Major Junior and sending Potter up there to check out games. That was an interesting slip of the information.
How would this work? They could get somebody verbally, I guess, could say something, but it's a legal thing right now. As of right now, isn't it not until August?
August 1 is when
where the law really or the rule kind of would happen. So they would have to we're committed, but we can't even talk or do anything about it until August.
Well, even like Soulier, they didn't announce that he was a Gopher until he actually started
that's a
classes.
transfer. This is a whole new rule, though. I don't know. I just don't know how
you're hearing plenty of other major junior guys commit to colleges.
You're not hearing them from the schools, though.
Right. You will not hear it from the schools because it won't be, especially because they're Canadians. You won't hear it until it becomes more official. So But if I was the Gopher coaching staff, I would probably be looking for a goalie from Major Junior, and
Yeah.
I would probably be looking for a scorer from Major Junior. You want to have some safety net options if Wood goes pro. I think there's been a lot of debate whether or not he'll come back or not. You know, he's a first-round pick for Nashville. NHL teams typically do not like their first-round picks to play their senior year of college hockey because of the free agency loophole that gets opened up. So, yes, Misa would be an interesting player for Minnesota, and I would, spit and chicklets. They said he was maybe connected to Minnesota. That would be exciting. I have not heard anything about that. If anything, I think the Gopher coaching staff has tried to downplay the potential of major junior kids coming to Minnesota. I think some of that's their USA hockey ties, but at the same point, their jobs are on the line if they don't win at Minnesota. And winning national championships is what coaches are expected to do. And if they have holes in their lineup and they don't know if they have enough scoring, they will seek them.
I've never seen a slower.
I think he was gassed. He was at the end of like a 90-second shift. I mean, that's what happens when you seek offense and then you play defense and then you have a scoring chance. You're gassed.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you have to be smart with your line changes. Even these elite players can't play forever at high pace. They just can't.
Oh, yeah, Mote. How about the Mankato Gopher fan drama this week? Apparently, Manstinko is the new Janford EU.
Well, yeah, that's about Mason Kraft.
It's
being
about Kraft.
committed to Minnesota State. And, he had a great senior year. He did the work in the weight room and conditioning, got himself in great shape, had an amazing year. I mean, I don't want to tell Dan Myers this to his face, but Mason Kraft's going to have a lot of people in his ear this summer. It's like, do you really want to go to Minnesota State? You'll have other options if you want them. You earned that this year. Last year, he hadn't earned those opportunities yet. It was all crystal ball recruiting. What player could he be?
Yeah.
Versus who he actually is.
And he has a lot of people say, yeah, he lost quite a bit of weight and just did it himself. So, I mean, great for him. Maybe Mankato's a great place for him.
It could be. I mean, maybe that's what he wants too, but he'll have opportunities to do other things if he really wants them.
Wood is always gas. What do you do? He scored some goals for us. A lot of goals.
Was he second on the team in scoring? I think he's up there. Snuggerud's the leader at 22, and Kurth and Wood are tied for 17.
There you go.
That's a pretty good year. Doesn't have to be pretty. I think Ryan Potolny was one of your great examples of not a pretty player, but a very productive one.
36 goals in a season.
Johnny Pohl, not a great skater either.
No.
But good enough.
Yeah, but Wood is at exactly 1 point per game. 38 points in 38 games.
Joe Pavelski for Wisconsin was not a great skater. Long career in the NHL. It's more than just skating. You don't make the World Junior team for Canada because you're skating, but you can still be a heck of a player.
Yeah. Who knows? Let me see here. I was just looking at the stats. Yeah, I had some back and forth with Gopher game stats, and he was saying that Jimmy would have to average like 5 to 6 points a game in the playoffs to get close to his dad, how his dad did, and because his dad played a bunch of games in the NCAA, because it was different back then because they did have those
the series,
the series and stuff like that, so it was just different. But like, I don't think he's going to do that. But boy, come into the regional, score 2 goals the first night, get a goal and 3 assists the next, something like that. He does that, they're in the Frozen Four. I guarantee it, because if he's going, other guys are going. It's over because we've seen it. We've seen it. They could take out any team. Let's just see it. Let's see Mr. Lamb start lighting the lamp again. He did a couple weeks ago. Let's get going, kid.
Yeah, I think he benefits so much from that chaos power play. When there's loose pucks, he's again one of those guys who really can finish on rebound chances and traffic around the net. But they just need to get into those situations. You can't put it into the breadbasket or into the corner or into the shin pads. It's got to be in a dangerous spot, or it's got to be heavy, or it's got to have some horizontal movement on the pass before you get it to the net.
I swear Minnesota gets more shots blocked than any other team I've ever seen. And it's been like that for 20 years. It seems like those D just cannot get the puck through. It's not like the old Ballard and Paul Martin days. It seems like we've been hitting shins for a long time.
Yeah, it's tough to shoot from up top. Kester does a pretty nice job up there.
And it's not all, his a lot of nice little wrist shots too.
Mm-hmm.
Just get it on net. There's traffic.
Well, you got to manipulate the space a little bit.
Yeah.
You can't just wind up, because once you wind up, everybody knows it's coming. So.
It was frustrating. Just frustrating.
Yes.
What do you do?
You have to wait.
A long wait.
Mm-hmm.
Lowell wins in overtime. Let me see here. Oh yeah, they were playing UNH. Okay. Interesting. I'm guessing those are 2 out of 3. Actually, I'm not sure how those games work. Oh, they're already at their tournament. Okay. Well, they're do or die right now.
Okay.
I didn't realize it was not a best 2 out of 3. It's a goofy 1 weekend tournament or something. Or maybe a partial, because, I look at. Yeah, they get down to the quarterfinals just this weekend, because it says,
Well, so they have campus site first round today, and then they go. It says quarters are March 15th. Another campus site?
There's Providence and Connecticut on Friday.
Massachusetts BU now.
Yeah. And then I guess someone else will fill in here. Oh, they're just doing the kind of play-in games. Okay, I see. And Lowell hasn't updated yet, so I'll see you chin up.
Okay. I'm learning some things about Hockey East. I'm usually not as focused on it, but they reseed for single-game quarterfinals, reseed for semis, and finals.
How many Gophers are covertly in the chat? I don't think any of the players are in the chat. Definitely not in the chat. Do they watch? Maybe. We know former players are watching right now in a bathtub. Oh boy. I think, it's just, we always see teams that can just shut down Minnesota and this, balanced, deep offensive attack. And we just keep seeing it.
Mm-hmm.
And just, we had Mankato a couple years take Minnesota out easily. We had Notre Dame last weekend. Last year we had a good BU team. That game was pretty good until a couple honestly bad goals that just kind of turned the whole thing on closing.
But I do think the only super mentally strong team we've had was the one that went to Tampa. like they did not get frustrated. How many games went into
Mhm.
like tie third periods
Yep.
or down a goal third periods where they pull the goalie? Did they pull out?
They
I mean,
did,
that
yeah.
was the most mentally strong team I've been around ever. And you can pin it on Matthew Nyes, Brock Faber, Jackson Lacombe. Like those guys were head and shoulders above anybody else we've seen come through the program in terms of confidence, leadership, consistency, effort. I mean, it's a pretty high bar to match those three.
I unfortunately think that might have been their chance. I, you know, heard some people say they changed their style of hockey. Bob says no. Paul Martin kind of says yes. That in combination of what, adjustments Quinnipiac made.
But Juke, they still had chances to extend the lead. Like you look at that Sunger shot, they had probably 3 other chances in the
Yeah.
third period where they could have extended the lead to 2.
I
They had the
I know.
chances.
It could have been
Like
3
they had
nothing.
them.
It could have been 3 nothing. It was 2 nothing. Could have been easily 3 nothing, 4 nothing. I had fun in Tampa anyway. It was a fun experience, win or lose for me. So,
But I do know like right now, Paul Martin, Cal Dietz run a leadership group with this team to try to get them over that hurdle of handling pressure and relying on the work you've put in and not gripping the stick so tight. Like I know they're working on it.
well, now they get plenty of
But
time to work on it too, don't they? Like say,
right.
well, no, honestly, it's like, hey, look what just happened, guys. You're not focusing. You're not doing the smart play. You're trying to do it all by yourself. This is a team.
It's almost like they're over focusing though. Like they're putting so much pressure on themselves that they can't execute.
But okay, then that's the messaging. You got that's Paul Martin, and that's what they got to talk about. He's been there. He's been in the biggest games. He's been in the NHL. He's been, 2002. Can you say pressure? I mean, the team gets down late, and all of a sudden, oh boy, it was just it doesn't get more pressure packed than having not won a title in over 20 years. You're on home ice, and all of a sudden you're losing late in the game.
Mhm.
That's pressure. So they could have used a little Matt Kowalski last weekend. He was at the arena. Maybe they could have snuck some pads or some skates on him. He could have scored a big goal or something, but could have, should have,
What
would
was the joke that Angel said? Hey, Kowalski, why don't you go out there and hit somebody? Or
who did he say it to? I forget what the story was.
it was somebody. Why don't you go
Yeah.
out and lay a hit?
It was
the first shift.
It was why is that a coach?
O'Leary.
I think it was something about O'Leary, wasn't it?
Yeah, why don't you go out and hit somebody?
I would say you're right about the mentally strong. They were pretty mentally strong, and Faber put so much into that team. I look at how devastated he was when they lost that game. And then people were saying, "Oh, look, when they lost to Canada a couple weeks ago, hey, look how devastated." No, not even close. He had to be consoled on the ice for quite a while, and it was just devastating to him. Probably still, that's not something he's ever going to forget. And saw it with my own eyes, unfortunately, and it was. I know you went into the locker room after that game. I went down and said, thank you to Scott Slarks. I didn't want to see that because I saw part of it, and I'm like, you know what? I don't need to see that. But you saw the devastation, Viggs.
Yeah, I mean,
wow,
it was interesting to go around and talk to everybody and to see how hard that Nyes and Faber and Lacombe and Johnson took it. Like the people out here in the social media, they go after these guys pretty hard. but those guys really were invested.
Oh, nice. Steve. Now it's Minnesota up on third place. Picked up another 0.008 on Maine. Well, that's good. Keep the positivity coming. I kind of like the Pat's attitude. Let's just keep trying to stay as positive as possible. Hope they make the right adjustments. You know, we've got Carmen coming in a couple weeks. We're going to be off next week. You know, you don't realize, you know, it's for a while there, Viggs, we didn't have a lot of former players at games paying attention so much, but it seems like the last couple of years, you get somebody like Angel, and we see Carmen there all the time. He's up in the club, and he's got 2 seats there with him and his wife. They come to 70-80% of the games.
They're almost always there.
Yeah, it's that's why I think he's going to start being a regular guest here, because he's invested. He watches this team, and you know, even when we had started having Shearhorn and Jack on, they weren't as watching as much, but now that they're calling games, they're watching a lot more. So I love getting that perspective. And, you know, we got Angel here, you know, watching us, throwing stuff at me. He loves the Whipple kid, by the way. He wants to see more of him. So Whipple's kind of got that nasty attitude. Maybe we need some of that, Viggs.
I mean, he's a physical guy.
Yeah.
If you see it in the games he's been in, I'll see it in practice. You know, he's a big kid. You know, he's looking forward to make his mark here. I saw him on Instagram this week. He's like, check M season 1. You know, he's happy to be a Gopher, and he's happy to make his landing here, and he's going to stick around. I know some people were saying, oh, is he going to leave because he's not playing? No, he knew the deal going in.
Yeah.
This is going to be a tough year for him to get ice time. And he was like, I'm willing to give that up because I want to be a part of this group faster.
Yeah. I'm guessing, you know, we will, who is it there? Oh, yeah. Matthew Dietz saying, well, we see Whipple's. I don't know if, I think they might just put him out there as the extra defenseman. Like you said, not extra skater. I think he'll be out there as a defenseman. I mean,
I have a hard time seeing that they're going to play Michael or Whipple with that extra spot. Even if they, you know, it's hard to see. Like, look at the defensemen on this team. They're going to play the guys they need to play. And I think they'll probably shorten the bench a little bit as much as they want to roll 60. I think in a 1-game elimination, you're going to see some different bench strategies.
So you might see, you know, like a Moore with a Nevers and a Hendrickson, just kind of rotating forwards in with the center. Yep. Have a couple lines and then take guys, and that's how you mix in that fourth line. Then I guess it's maybe not short. They're not going to disappear. I mean, team building events. Watch Youngblood. Oh, Mote, you're an old school guy like me. Youngblood.
Plenty of opportunity for them to bond the next couple of weeks here.
It's got to be tough with Huglen though, because that is tough. I don't know. I don't really know what happened. He kind of got a little airborne there and then went into the goal. I don't know if somebody landed on him. I
think he got kind of trapped going over Airy.
Okay.
So I think that just must have been what happened, is he got kind of trapped and rolled over on. And
let me see, because I got a photo right before it. No, I don't have it. I don't think I have it inputted, or do I? I might. Yeah, well. Let's see if I can export that one. Yeah, I don't. Maybe you could find the video probably quicker than I can even find a photo here. So, and this is kind of before. This number 12 kind of gets, Huglen gets airborne. 12 kind of gets underneath him, and so he ends up going in kind of into the goal.
Yeah,
doesn't he?
Because he ends up behind Airy.
Yeah.
after this, so I think he gets rolled up.
Yeah,
on
I haven't
somehow.
imported all the photos yet, so they took a lot. So
Mhm.
it was just, yeah. When he wasn't moving right away, I'm like, that is not good. Because you know what? He's the kind of person who is going to battle in the corner and get you the puck and
get off. He's not going to overextend his shift. He's
Yeah.
not going to play that game. He's going to play the continuity game. So,
all right. What do you do? It's just how it is. Well, we get a week off from the podcast. That's not so bad when it's crunch time. It's kind of nice to take my mind off of things and doing some of this stuff. And we can't get our credentials until they announce the teams, unless you're going to be there, whether if your team's there or not. So we'll get credentialed that Sunday night, and we'll head up to Fargo and have a fun weekend, Viggs.
yeah, maybe we'll have to stop at Ramba's Pizza between games. Make the trip up there. They treat us pretty well.
Or on Thursday or Friday.
Yeah.
So that, yeah. It's not a bad idea.
Yeah, a little day
Josh,
trip.
will you be? Oh, Josh, your season will be over.
Schloss might be there. Yeah.
No, Schloss will be in Fargo. He was last time. So, all right. I think that's some good overtime. We don't need to go too far tonight. We've kind of gotten our grievances out. What you think?
Yep. Thanks for joining us for a little bit of therapy. So we appreciate it. Home field hoodies, these gold ones sold out. You can still get the white ones if you're looking for something to wear to the regionals.
I might have to wear mine in the in-between day when we go up to Grand Forks.
Yeah.
All right, folks. Thanks for joining us again this week. We'll see you in a couple weeks with Mike Carmen. Later, folks. Pizza. Delicious.
Wonder what kind of pizza Potter had watching Michael Nisa.